for the final time on Sunday. It's a beautiful afternoon at a 3.5-mile, 20-turn circuit known for hosting the U.S. Grand Prix, and this weekend, a host of different series for SRO Motorsports America. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by DJ Clark for the final session of Sunday for GT1 Sports Club, a on-track display of some of the most spectacular and best engineered cars in the world. And DJ, we've gotten the privilege of listening to some of the best engine notes that you could possibly queue up on the microphones.
Well, it's a full sensory experience here this weekend. We have gotten to see some of the absolute most beautiful cars in the world, and we have gotten to hear those absolutely immaculate engine notes as we've got a whole plethora of them headed out on track. I see the Aston Martin DBS headed out. I see one of the Paganis headed out on track, as well as, oh, I'm so excited for this one. We haven't seen it this weekend. Kyle, we've got a Ford GT.
Oh, the Ford GT, the contemporary one, is out on course. It's the red and gold striping you see in the background, but there is the Apollo IE, a car that we saw earlier today was this Apollo IE, the naturally aspirated 6.3-liter V12, and we're going to get to see it one more time here, DJ. What a special car with that Ferrari-sourced engine, German-sourced engineering. It is an amalgamation of some of the best parts and pieces that you can find to build a hypercar.
Well, and talking about what it is constructed out of, it is almost made entirely out of carbon fiber. But it does have an absolutely incredible way through it. It only weighs about 231 pounds. That's how much the chassis weighs. Taking out the engine, taking out all of that, 231 pounds, Kyle.
Yeah, it's an amazing piece of engineering, that car. 231 pounds for the chassis. Carbon fiber, titanium parts on it, aluminum as well. It's incredibly lightweight. The rest of the car around it, though, adds some bulk to it, but you wouldn't know it by looking at the body lines here. Through turn 11, up onto the back straightaway, this naturally aspirated V12, 6.3-liter V12. Let's listen to this engine. Down into turn 12, the Apollo IE, that engine making one great sound. And we talked about the aerodynamics of this car earlier, very purposeful, and how it is an assembly of some of the greatest automotive parts, pieces, and minds in particular from every corner of the world. There are only 10 of these cars in existence, DJ. This is one of them here at Circuit of the Americas. For the fans at the racetrack, seeing these cars up close, some people here were seeing their favorite cars, the dream cars that they've thought about all their lives for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's really special about GT1 Sports Club is these are the cars, as we've said a couple of times over the course of this weekend, that you put up on your wall as a kid. These are the ones that you fantasize about, and for race fans here at the track, they get to experience them in person for perhaps the first time.
Yeah, there's a Pagani as well, and when I talk about special cars from a special manufacturer, look at the curves on this thing, the rear diffuser as well, all those strakes under the car to channel air to create low pressure underneath to suck the car down to the ground. Let's watch this car here for this Pagani up into turn 1. Navigating this 3.5-mile circuit with, again, the striking gold stripes on this as well, DJ.
Yeah, very, very pretty. This, of course, is the Pagani Huayra that we take a look at here at this point, and so much aerodynamic sculpting into this. And I love seeing the different design philosophies. We saw the Apollo and how it was very geometric, very aggressive in its sculpting. This is smoother. It's more streamlined. You can tell that this car is definitely generated for a little bit more speed here at this point. It really and truly does, and that gold highlights really just accents the curves of the car. It's absolutely spectacular.
It really is, and navigating these corners here at Circuit of the Americas, one of the things we talked about earlier today was how this racetrack can feel quite small, even though it's long and wide. When you get out there for the first time between the Armco and these million-dollar-plus cars, in several cases multiple millions of dollars, you want to take it a bit careful. But of course, trailing in behind it, that Ford GT, two very different cars with the same mission of inspiring the future automotive enthusiast, and certainly worthy of being on everyone's bedroom posters, huh?
Oh, most certainly. And let's talk here a little bit more about this Pagani and just what it is able to do. Titanium exhaust system, again, the weight saving that we see from Pagani, absolutely incredible. It has a 0 to 60 in about 2.6 seconds, and it is capable of a top speed of 238. Again, this car...
That's an unbelievable number.
Yeah, that is a number that you cannot comprehend. This car, all about speed.
I mean, 238 miles an hour, that's what, twice the takeoff speed of a 747? I mean,
you're the plane guy.
That is VMAX for sure for a car on the ground. I feel like if you turn that wing upside down on the rear deck lid there, it might take off on you, but what a neat looking car. You know, the taillights in particular on Paganis, something about them give me kind of a spider eye look to it, which I think is really aggressive. And certainly the flowing lines, that gold paint I mentioned earlier, adds to the attractiveness of this car, that low slung body, very purposeful. Shoulders on the car as well, and those wing mirrors, they look like leaves, don't they? Just elegant, organic design on the wing of that car.
Yeah, and the engine that it uses to produce that, it's a 6-liter twin turbocharged V12. So we take a look back here at the Ford GT. Now, this is obviously one of, as I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite cars. This was designed by about 16 people, there or thereabouts, in absolute top secret development at Ford. They were huddled in what is ostensibly a broom closet in the basement so that no one would know that they were working on this car, and it shows. It is gorgeous, and not only is it gorgeous, it's got racing pedigree behind it, both in its past and in its present.
Absolutely. Of course, everyone that has followed racing for a long time is familiar with the GT40 story, racing over in Le Mans and in Europe, and you know, bringing that American power over there and the elegance that car had. But this contemporary version, I think, is worth talking about. In particular, the 3.5-liter turbocharged V6 that this car has under the rear decking there. That engine, or a version of it, has been used in tons of motorsport competition in the 2000s and on. We've seen it race in global sports car competition and here in some other series domestically in the States. But applied to this road-going Ford GT, I think it has a very unique sound, and of course 3,200 pounds with 660 horsepower and 550 pound-feet of torque. Top speed on this car, 216 miles an hour. Of course, those striking flying buttresses as well, channeling air to the rear spoiler, perhaps one of the most distinctive features of this car.
And that was part of the design. It was twofold in the way that they wanted to do it. They wanted a low drag design on the car, but they also wanted it to maintain the heritage of the GT line, making sure that it's still, you could see it and you could immediately go, yep, that's a Ford GT.
Designing a car in the 1960s and then following it up in the late 2000s and immediately recognizing it as the same kind of car, it's an undertaking for sure. And then to also have the no compromises performance that they were searching for their racing program, I think is worth talking about, absolutely. And just look how low and purposeful that car is. Low and wide, and it looks like a race car for the road, and it's all part of it. The suspension on this car also draws from its racing heritage. It uses a push rod system that moves all those suspension components inwards, that allows the center of gravity, the weight distribution of the car, to be much more centered. It also reduces, you've got a lot less weight on the extremities of the car, and increases the handling as well. But back to the Lamborghini Huracan STOs. We've heard and seen these cars all weekend long, DJ, and the naturally aspirated V10 produces an engine note that is absolutely one of my favorites to listen to.
And distinctively Lamborghini is the way that I would describe it. Absolutely incredible as it goes, and it works its way through the S's here at this point. That Lamborghini just absolutely perfect in that Lamborghini green that we talked about a little bit earlier.
There are so many fantastic cars around Circuit of the Americas that we'd be remiss if we didn't allow everyone to see the sights and hear the sounds of GT1 Sports Club here at COTA. Have a listen. And the sounds and the sights of GT1 Sports Club. What a sensation. And I can tell you, while the sounds in the ears on the broadcast are excellent, trackside they have been awesome as well. And for the fans that have gotten to see these cars up close, it's been a busy place under that tent in the paddock. DJ is all part of the attractions here at Circuit of the Americas for this SRO Motorsports weekend here in North America. It's been a blast to see this go down. Of course, there's a handful of other cars that we haven't seen on track in this session. Of course, we saw yesterday the Jaguar XJ220 make some laps as well. The La Ferrari Aperta that was out earlier today. Of course, the McLaren Senna and a couple of Paganis that we've seen at times. So there's a couple of drivers that have really gotten their time's worth out there, especially the drivers in these Lamborghinis have really been exploring the limits of this Lamborghini Huracan as it navigates now turn 15 here at COTA, DJ.
Yeah, they are pushing their way around here, and this is exactly where the Lamborghini feels at home. Again, this is the STO version of the car. This is modeled after the Super Trofeo racing series that Lamborghini has put forward, and so that upward air scoop that you see on the back of the car, as well as some taller rear wings and the shark fin that you see on the back, all to make it act, look, and feel much more like that Super Trofeo race car. And this is what these cars were meant to do, tear up a racetrack.
I believe this is Scott behind the wheel of this green Lamborghini. There's another one out there that we've seen at times with that blue and white and silver wrap, but you know, the racing heritage, of course, in Lamborghini, and you know, the names that they give their cars as well all evoke a certain sense of drama. They've got kind of lightning bolt headlights and lightning bolt taillights, and everything's sharp and purposeful and built to go fast. And just one of the favorite things about looking at these cars is if you look at the angle of attack to the wind of the hood, the front hood of the car, and the angle of attack of the windshield, it's almost one straight line. There's really no bump from the hood to the windshield. It's all just one smooth curve. As you see some cars on the pit lane, including that KTM Crossbow GT2 with that fascinating clamshell cockpit opening that makes it a pretty interesting car to look at and I'm sure climb into.
Yeah, it certainly is a little bit of a different way to get their way in and out of a car. It looks like drivers popping on out here at this point. I can also see down there that Aston Martin DBS, as well as the Pagani Huayra down there in pit lane as well. So plenty of cars here just taking their time out. Again, there's going to be a full track day for these cars tomorrow, so they're kind of using this as a little bit of a test bed session to really be able to feel out the track, although it does look like that Huayra may be headed back out now.
Yeah, giving it a go here and pulling back out onto the road. Of course, in the background you see the gold Aventador SVJ. That's another awesome car to listen to. We saw that earlier in the day as well, but the Pagani pulls out onto course again, and again, the organic shapes on this car. You know, there seems to be two schools of thought when it comes to the aesthetics or the aerodynamics of supercars and hypercars. And do you notice the nose of that car? The front wing assembly on that car making some moves. That's pretty interesting to look at. But the point is, we're just talking about the Lamborghini, the sharp pointiness of it, but the organic body shape that this car has almost evokes the sense of nature, right? Those leaflet-shaped wing mirrors that are just designed to channel air around, using natural shapes as a way to go through the air, almost bird-like in a way.
Yeah, and it's one of the things about getting up into this hypercar type category that you really start to differentiate these different cars and where they draw their inspiration, how that is pulled out here at this point. And once again, with this Huayra, you can really tell that that car is built for straight line speed. All of that working in that nice flow back. And then you mentioned the flaps that looked like they were coming up and down a little bit. That is the next cutting edge technology that we're going to start seeing more and more. You already see it now in La Ferrari, you see it in the McLaren Senna, you see it in the Huayra, but that's active aerodynamics. That is parts of the car that actively move move up and down according to the brake pedal and according to the air pressure around you. That's to better slow the car down, to better get it in through the corners better. If you actually watch as that Huayra will go through corners, those front flaps, they don't work in perfect unison together. They don't always work in tandem. Sometimes one will be up and one will be down, depending on how the steering wheel is pointed.
It kind of reminds me of like thrust vectoring on a fighter jet, right? Like the Lightning almost, right? Where it's got the ability to directionally influence where the air is going with those operated active aerodynamic elements. And we've seen active aero on a handful of cars here this weekend. Some of them, it's the entire rear wing assembly will tilt up and it'll flatten out on the straightaways and act like an air brake going into corners by tilting up, and instead of the air flowing over the front edge of the wing, it will slam into the top of the wing and thus slowing the car down at a rate not possible without that aerodynamic element. But of course, on this Pagani, the vectoring nature of those winglets helping the car to rotate. And we've talked in some of the sessions this weekend, DJ, about center of pressure, and every time you move an aerodynamic component, how it will adjust the attitude of the car, especially in a high downforce corner. Just so much engineering, because you can't just have flaps and wings and things just do things willy-nilly. There has to be complex computation sorted out so that the car maintains maximum grip at high speed and low.
And now here is one of my personal favorite cars, because I am always a fan of Aston Martin's, the DBS, sometimes known as the DBS Superleggera, a gorgeous looking car. And whereas a lot of these cars, the Huayra notwithstanding, are really trimmed out to be track day monsters and to have nothing but just aggressive and all about the track, this Aston Martin regains that British luxury.
I'm sure there's a lot of drivers that have run the motorsport side of this weekend that I would love a nice leather seat and some great air conditioning right about now, and they'd be very jealous of this level of Aston Martin, this DB770. And I would always joke about the British supercars having a swoopy look to them. It seems like no matter what manufacturer they come from, they've got a sort of aerodynamic flow that I think looks absolutely excellent. And of course, this car is a work of art, right? The intersection of art and engineering is really where hypercars and supercars like this land on the scope of automotive engineering.
Yeah, as it looks like they're all coming to rest here as the checkered flag is in the air. I believe they're going to do a group picture or a group lap here as a sort of a way to send off the weekend. And what better way to send off a weekend of fantastic sports car racing than by seeing this GT1 group of cars together on the track?
Well, for the race fans here, it's just all part of the experience and the sights and sounds and smells of some of the cars that they've looked at, perhaps with a longing that they've never thought that they would see one in person, or never thought that they'd have the opportunity to see it at speed, especially for those camping on the back straightaway. They got to see those flybys at 150 plus miles an hour in some cases. It's all a part of this SRO Motorsports America weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. It's been a beautiful weekend of racing across all the different series, but for GT1 Sports Club, demonstrating the intersection of art and engineering at speed here, all part of the SRO Motorsports America offering. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Signing off from Circuit of the Americas.